There's a word that buyers either love or hate and almost never feel neutral about. HOA, Homeowners Association. Some people hear that word and almost immediately walk away from a house that they loved, while others specifically search for it. They won't buy anywhere that doesn't have one. And here's the thing, both reactions are usually based on incomplete information because HOAs are not just one thing. They can range from $50 a year to thousands a month, and what they do with that money is wildly different from one neighborhood to the next. I'm Rebecca Williams, a real estate professional and expert in the East Texas area. I've helped people over the years that contact me directly from my YouTube channel buy and sell real estate. I've also helped people figure out whether or not East Texas is even a good fit for them. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And over the next 9 or 10 minutes or so, I'm going to give you an honest breakdown on HOAs, what they actually do, the pros and cons, and the questions every buyer should ask before they sign anything. Stick with me because there's one thing that almost nobody talks about openly, and it's the one thing I want you to take away from this video. This is the Living in East Texas channel, where I help you figure out what it's really like to live in Hideaway, Lindale, Mineola, Tyler, all around East Texas. If you're new here, but you are considering buying or selling or both in East Texas, hit subscribe because it's exactly the things that I cover here. What an HOA is exactly in plain English. When you buy a home in an HOA neighborhood, you're a member of the Homeowners Association, automatically, not optionally. You pay dues monthly, quarterly, annually, depending on the neighborhood. Those dues cover whatever the HOA is responsible for in that community or neighborhood. There's typically a board of homeowners that run the HOA. Sometimes they're volunteers and sometimes they're ran by a management company. Some of them are elected through a homeowner vote. There are rules, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, usually called CCRs. They basically say what you can and can't do with your property. Something super important to note is that every HOA is completely different. The dues, the rules, what's covered, what's not, none of it is standardized. That's really why generalizations about HOAs is usually wrong. There is a big range. Sometimes they're very small HOAs and sometimes they're very large. A small HOA is sometimes between $50 and $500 a year. Very often just maintaining the neighborhood entrance signs, sometimes their gates, a small common area, sometimes just the landscaping alone at the entrance of the neighborhood. Most of these have minimal involvement in your daily life. A mid-size HOA may be anywhere from $50 to $200 a month. It might cover landscaping in common areas, maybe a community pool, basic upkeep of shared spaces. And then there's large HOAs. These are usually several $100s or more each month. This covers more serious amenities, gates with security, multiple pools, golf, lakes, marinas, community events. Hideaway, Texas is one of these communities. And of course, I reside here, so I make tons of Hideaway videos if you guys want to check any of those out. And bringing that up, sometimes there is an initiation fee or a transfer fee to become a member into that homeowners association. The key point to take away from all of this is HOA doesn't really tell you anything. You have to know what each particular HOA involves. What HOA dues commonly cover: common area maintenance, typically landscaping at entrances, neighborhood signs, fences, walking trails, things like that. Shared amenities like pools and parks, clubhouses or community buildings, gates at the entrances, and security. In larger communities, it may be lakes, golf courses, staffing. Sometimes you're contributing to things such as lighting in common areas, maintenance, water for landscaping. If the streets are private and maintained by the HOA, sometimes the maintenance on the roads. What it almost never covers are things inside your personal home. Your roof, your HVAC system, your interior, paint, those kind of things are 100% on you. Okay, that's the what. Now let's talk about the thing that actually matters if you're considering purchasing a property within an HOA neighborhood. Because here's the thing that almost nobody talks about out loud. The thing that nobody talks about openly is this. When you buy a home in an HOA, you don't technically fully own the house. You're agreeing to a contract that affects what you can do to the house, what you'll pay every month as long as you live there. And what happens when the HOA raises dues, or charges a special assessment for something the community needs. That's not a reason to avoid HOAs. For a lot of people, it's actually a feature. They want someone to make sure the neighbor doesn't paint their house bright purple, or park an RV in the front yard, or allow the lawn to grow waist high. But it is something you've got to go into with your eyes wide open. So let me walk you through the honest pros, the honest cons, and the questions you should ask before you ever put in an offer. The honest pros of an HOA. Property values can be more protected. Consistent standards means your neighbor has to take care of their property too. You can also be able to use neighborhood amenities that you may not be able to afford on your own. A swimming pool, a security gate, a golf course. Shared costs help make these amenities accessible to all the homeowners. Another pro is that common areas stay maintained. Entrances look nice. The landscaping gets done regularly. Things get repaired. Another pro is there's a built-in standard of behavior. For some people, this is the entire selling point. Another pro to consider is there's often a sense of community within an HOA. Events, neighbors who know each other. It's easier to plug in because you find like-minded individuals that are also interested in the same things that you like. If you like to golf, you're going to make friends with golfers very easily. One more pro is that sometimes it's less for you as a homeowner to maintain personally. Some exterior maintenance may be handled. I sold one recently in Tyler, and that HOA fee maintained the front yard maintenance. The homeowner was responsible for the backyard, but that's half the battle sometimes for some people. The honest cons about HOAs. This is an ongoing cost on top of your mortgage. That's real money out of your pocket, ongoing forever as long as you live in the HOA. Another con is restrictions on what you may be able to do to your home. Sometimes paint colors, fences, type, and sometimes location, sheds, RVs, parking, sometimes even what kind of plants you can put in. Sometimes there are special assessments that arise. If the community is requiring some type of major repair, sometimes the cost can come back to you as the homeowner. Sometimes as a one-time charge and sometimes a special assessment. For example, my sister lived in a neighborhood in Lindale. The road needed maintenance and each homeowner was going to have to split the cost of the maintenance because it was a privately owned road. Another con is dues can go up. They're not fixed forever and increases do happen sometimes. Another con, you're partly subject to the HOA's decisions, and the boards are made of people with all that entails. Sometimes there can be infighting and distress between people in the community because of HOA decisions, meetings, and of course, many differing opinions on how things should be running and operating in general. Another con to consider is sometimes selling can be a challenge. If someone has outstanding dues or fines, or even sometimes an HOA that requires approval may take some time. Now I'm going to give you guys some questions you should ask before purchasing within an HOA. The very first question is, what are the dues and what is the frequency in which they're paid? What does that HOA fee cover and what's not covered specifically? Is there an initiation fee or a transfer fee at the point of purchase? How often have the dues raised in the last 5 to 10 years? Are there any pending or recent special assessments? You always want to ask to read a copy of the CCRs and the rules before you make an offer. Yes. Always read them. Do not rely on your real estate professional to answer every question. You never want to go just by what your real estate professional says. They don't work in that neighborhood very often. The rules may have changed and they may not even know to tell you that. One big one is, what's the financial health of the current HOA, meaning reserves, budgets, any upcoming major expenses? Another great question is, are there currently any rule disputes, lawsuits, or issues that I should know about as a buyer? Ask these before you fall in love with the house, not after. Look, HOAs are neither good nor bad. They're either a fit or they're not. The only way to know that is to look at each specific HOA in and of itself on its own merit, the specific community, and the specific way that you want to live in your home. That's a real conversation, and it's the kind of conversations I have with my buyers all the time. It's also a consideration if you're selling, whether or not you're selling and staying within the same community or getting out of that community altogether. If you're house shopping in East Texas and you're trying to figure out which HOA neighborhoods make sense for you, or whether or not you should avoid them entirely, call or text me 903-920-7413. It's also in the link below. I'll talk you through what you actually want, what each of these communities looks like in this area, and how to evaluate any HOA before you commit to it. No pressure, no sales pitch, just a real conversation. And one more thing. If you're working through specific legal questions regarding an HOA, you'll want to talk to a real estate attorney. I can tell you what life is like inside these communities. An attorney can give you more knowledge based on what the documents actually say. HOAs are not a yes or no question. They're a fit question. The right HOA with the right buyer can be the best decision, and the wrong HOA for the wrong buyer can be the most frustrating. Knowing the difference is the whole game. Drop me a comment. Tell me what you're worried about with HOAs, or what you wish you'd have known before you bought into one. I read every single one, and most of the time I'll comment back. And if you found this helpful, subscribe. I'm doing more of these honest breakdowns on the parts of buying and selling that nobody else talks about. I get more comments and interactions on any video where I mention an HOA than anything. It's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to film this video, because I do think there is a misunderstanding in general about HOAs, and it always depends on the specific neighborhood. I do find people sometimes that say no HOAs in the beginning of their search, and then they end up buying in an HOA. So I think sometimes it's a negative connotation, when for a lot of people it's a positive. Understanding an HOA, the specific rules for that particular neighborhood, I really think can actually benefit people if they would just take a little time to educate themselves a little more, and I'm always happy to help people do that. I actually enjoy filming these things for you guys. If you have an HOA question or comment, please let me know. This is Rebecca Williams with the Live in East Texas channel, and I will continue to video so you guys will know what it is like to live in beautiful East Texas. I've helped locals and people from moving out of state to the area who found me on this channel. I do have a Calendly link where we can, it's my favorite word, we can set up a Zoom call if you do live out of state, or if you just want to contact me directly, feel free to give me a call. Leave me a voicemail. If I'm with a client, I'm probably not going to grab an unknown number, so please leave me a voicemail. This Gen Xer does not understand the concept of not leaving messages. Thank you so much. This is the Living in East Texas channel. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.